Leo was an ugly, worthless, isolated child who was betrayed by humanity for being the strongest, overpowered hero and reincarnated by God as a demon lord to destroy the entire world. In the year 447, the demon lord's skeletal army rushed towards the human soldiers, but even as they clapped the humans, all of them were revived and blessed with godly powers from the angels. And when a giant dragon began raining fire on his castle, Leo sat inside of his corridor, watching how the 6 heroes destroyed all of his strongholds after being blessed with the gods. Once all of his skeletons were annihilated by a magical tree, priests began praying to cast the branches to destroy his last base, and Leo saw Ericale, the great sage who reincarnated with God's powers. With his anger swelling, he swore to burn him alive, but his Fenrir general reminded him of his vow to the goddess of rebellion, so Leo accepted defeat to keep his oath, and promised that he would reincarnate in 1,000 years to destroy all of humanity. After a millennia had passed, 2 girls began exploring the ruins of his castle, looking to eliminate the nest of giant voids inside. As they explored deeper, Celia realized they were entering the demon lord's tomb, and they eventually made it to the demonic gate, where she saw writing in a language she'd never seen before, so she tried translating it with her phone. However, it was as worthless as her companion Regina, who said that she would go looking for explosives in the other room. As soon as she left, Celia touched the door and activated the magic seal, opening it in that instant. With the flames burning on, she saw a giant crystal in the middle, and her radar's limiter broke, but she saw a person was trapped inside. When Leo reincarnated himself, he remembered meeting Roselia, the goddess of rebellion, who told him that 1,000 years from now, she'd be waiting for him in her child form, and disappeared before his eyes. At the same time, Celia continued firing at the crystal to free him, but Leo thought she was trying to rob his grave, so he destroyed the crystal to eliminate her. But as he got closer, he realized that she was the hottest girl he'd ever seen, and she wondered why a child was stuck inside a prison seal. When he looked to the side, he realized that he was back in his child form from when he was a hero, and Celia wondered how he got trapped inside. She began patting him down and hugged him to her chest, telling him that his sister will take care of him. Leo wondered how she could be so disrespectful to the demon lord, but suffocated inside of her huge cannons. By the time he woke up, he realized that his body was pathetic because of how easily he was subdued, and couldn't believe that he liked the way she disrespected him. But after saying that he was a 10-year-old named Leo, she thought he had a cute name, and he realized that her reaction indicated that his past was completely erased from history. At the same time, Regina's limiter nearly maxed out, so she summoned her holy sword. Celia went on to explain that voids were dark creatures and they didn't know anything about them, or why they were called voids, and Leo thought this bitch was just as useless as her explanations. The only thing he wanted to know was what year it was on the Holy God calendar, but she didn't know what the Holy God calendar was, and told him it was year 64 of the unified human calendar. Just then, the earth began to quake, and Celia tried to protect Leo from the falling rocks, promising that she'll save him. The void broke through the walls of the room, but none of Celia's shots had any effect on the beast, so to prevent it from destroying his sacred mausoleum, Leo prepared to cast his magic, but fell flat on his face. With the ogre about to slash them down, Regina fired a golden beam to cut its arm off, but the ogre managed to stand back up, so Regina transformed her holy sword into a dragon blaster. Seeing the light that was forming, Leo knew it wasn't magic, and the impact it had on the void monster was stronger than a phase 4 explosion spell. Regina told them to start running away, so Leo took Celia's hand, and realized that all of his reincarnation plans failed with this pathetic body. His only source of information was the hot girl moving him, but before them, a crystal fell down and a wyvern-class void appeared. Celia begged him to run away, but Leo was determined to use his powers to eliminate the beast and activated the magic from his wand. But before the wyvern would slash him down, Celia pushed him away and took the lethal blow instead. With her tomato juice coming out, she begged him to run to the surface with Regina, but a second void appeared along with a third wyvern. However, he wouldn't run and held her hand as she apologized for not being able to protect him, passing away. That same lifeless face reminded him of when the goddess revived him after being betrayed, and as the wyverns tried beating him down, he felt ashamed that he had taken a liking into the brave girl, so he promised to give them a fate worse than death. With his wand, he activated a phase 8 gravity spell and crushed one of them down. None of them were able to crack his shield, so he stabbed the second one, and while the third tried running away, he released his ultimate fire spell to burn the dragon to a crisp. With this weak body, he felt that only a third of his power could be released, but even the bones somehow survived his Phase 8 spell. Looking over Celia's body, he knew that human life didn't matter to him, but because she risked her life to save him, he promised to do what he can, even though all his spells were related to death. In that moment, he casted an insignia on her leg, and the blood began entering back into her body, with fangs forming on her mouth. Even if she'd be angry with him when she learned the truth, he knew it would be better than letting her pass away. Just then, Celia regained consciousness and hugged onto Leo for being safe, but as she was shocked to still be alive, Regina finally came back. However, Celia wondered where all the wyvern voids disappeared off to, but Leo pretended that he had no idea. Outside the cave, Celia told him to ride her, and as they drove away, Regina tried introducing herself.
What's all that movement back there? What's all that movement back there? There's a whole lot of clapping.
Leo said it was really nice to meet them, but Regina told Celia that Leo wasn't being polite. However, Celia told her that she's just imagining things, and that there would be a whole lot more motion on the bumpy road. While riding away, Regina told him to enjoy hugging onto Celia, but thought a little shock might help him regain his memories. Celia told her to stop before Leo grows up to call himself a man of culture, but Regina said that all guys have dirty minds anyway. Leo was the almighty undead king, but had no idea why it felt so good being ridiculed by the girl, and realized he'd be the type who liked getting stepped on at anime conventions. As they got closer to the base, Celia showed Leo humanity's last stronghold, one of the 7 assault gardens around the world, and it finally clicked that he was actually reincarnated 1,000 years in the future. 6 years ago, the voids entered through the dimensional gate, and Regina hugged tightly onto Celia, worried that all of their family would perish. However, Celia told Regina that her parents, along with all the other knights, would never lose the battle. And as the building began to quake, she told Regina that she would protect everyone once she got her holy sword. As the emergency lights went off, Celia tried running to help her family, but Regina held her back. However, Celia said that her family had never lost a single fight and promised that everything would be alright. But when the explosions stopped and the doors opened, both of them were long asleep. The entire city was in ruins, and every single soldier had been eliminated. Hearing those words made Celia collapse as she apologized to Regina for lying to her that everything would be fine. Ever since that day, Celia knew nothing would be the same and promised she would never lie again. Leo wondered if this entire place was a stronghold, so the girls told him that they also lived and trained here. This was the first time he'd ever seen an island this massive, except for Regina's massive tip. Celia announced to her leader that they managed to rescue a refugee, and said that he possessed one of the holy swords, saying he had healed her wound because of his kind refugee heart. Leo wondered why the f they kept calling him a refugee, so Regina said that it referred to people who lost their homelands because of the voids. But it was getting late, so Regina began leaving to buy groceries when they came back. Once she was gone, Celia told him that he's on his own for the examination, and that she would meet up with him later. But before going through the door, Leo went inside the bathroom, angry at how everything ended up horribly wrong. His plan of rebuilding his demon army was basically worthless now, as humans had advanced without limits, and void monsters were stronger than most of his lead generals. On top of that, he had a worthless child's body, so he called Blackus and Sherry out. He told them that it's been a long time, but when Sherry laid her eyes on him, she thought that this was his cutest adorable form. He told her to shut her ugly mouth up, and said that this land was an artificial land created by humans, so to study their powers, he wanted to infiltrate their military compounds and eat their foods. But Sherry was disappointed because she wanted to be the one who took care of him. When he told her to shut her mouth before showing her why he was called the Bone King, she apologized for disrespecting her master, so he told them to get out of his face, and both of them disappeared. At the entrance to the town, pipes came and blew a mysterious wind on him, and after walking forward, a limiter tried measuring his mana. However, as he got closer, the limiter began going off, so he used his mana suppression to lower his detectable powers and walked forward. Finally, 2 poles appeared and scanned a laser at him, and when he was done, a machine spat out his card. As he looked at it, Celia came to take a photo of it, saying that she has everything necessary for registering the abilities of his holy sword. Since he didn't have one, he knew that he had to make some shit up on the spot. But Celia told him that she would be taking him on a tour first. Along the way, he saw how advanced their civilization had become and realized that this was actually a peaceful place to live in. Before his eyes, she showed him Excalibur Academy, but when she asked him if it was amazing, Leo calmly said it was. However, she thought he would have a crazier reaction, but Leo couldn't believe it was even bigger than his largest stronghold. As they walked around, she showed him the library, the classrooms, and the auditorium before they ended up at the research lab. These places were only a fraction of all the places in the city, and there were even more dorms for where they lived. On top of that, there was a bath and a dance hall. But Leo had no idea why they would need those for war, so Celia explained that holy swords were brought out by a person's emotions, and failed to appear when a person was depressed. Because of that, all military compounds in the past failed at maximizing the holy sword's potential. But Leo felt something was off about the way they mysteriously appeared. As she kept showing him around the city, Celia collapsed, and Leo wondered why she was the only one lacking a sword. While walking around the academy, one of the girls thought Leo was cute, but the other told her to watch out because he might grow up to become a demon lord in bed. Leo wondered how she knew he was the demon lord, but thought it was just a coincidence. Just then, some ugly guy who looks like he's been fighting an addiction for the last 12 years appeared, and made fun of her battle scar because she was too unfit to go on expeditions. However, Celia tried to ignore Muzel and leave with Leo, but Blondie stopped her from leaving and asked her who Leo was. When she told him it was none of his business, he started laughing in her face because she was babysitting an ugly kid now. Muzel told Celia that she could join his platoon and never worry about risking her life again, especially with how useless she was at summoning a holy sword despite her bloodline. And with his collection of toys, he promised that he'd take care of her, but Leo knew that they were under his mind control spell. However, Celia told him that she wasn't interested and tried walking aside, but Muzel grabbed her hair and restrained her. As she yelled in pain, Leo screamed at him and stared with gleaming eyes, and when Muzel asked what his ugly ass would do, Leo casted his demonic spell towards him, making his legs quake until he fell onto the floor. He asked Muzel if he was okay, but told him to listen like the uncultured swine he was, warning him to never lay a finger on her beautiful hair again. Muzel tried activating his holy sword that was a reflection of his skinny wand, but a mysterious girl with massive orbs appeared, and ordered him to leave the female dorm area with his skinny sword before expelling him. Seeing that he was defeated, Muzel left along with his lackeys, but Fine apologized that Celia had to put up with him. She saw Leo, and wondered if he was the guy who came with her, and introduced herself, while the spheres recorded his size for his school uniform. Seeing that this was another holy sword, he wondered if those spheres were bigger than Regina's, and Celia told Fine that he was the kid who healed her with his holy sword. With him being the first human with healing magic, she wondered if the large amount of mana that radiated across the city had something to do with him. But as she kept speaking, Celia began losing consciousness, and Leo realized that she'd began running dry of juice. A few hours later, they finally made it to their dorm, but Leo wondered why it looked so much older than all the others. Inside, she told him that this entire city is built on a merit system, and the higher rank platoons even have a jet bath. Leo wondered what f***ing overpowered ass weapon would be called a jet bath, and when they went to Regina's room, they saw that she was already asleep after playing with her celery sticks. When they got to her room, he wondered why they don't have any locks, but she told him that they were the worst platoon in the academy, so no one cared about their privacy. On her bed, she began developing plot, but she told Leo to just go ahead and take a bath without her. Inside the shower room, she wondered if he'd be willing to join their platoon, but he sneezed, so she told him to take the shower already. With the shower head on, he was shocked that they'd mastered the ability to combine fire with water, and began washing his head with soap, thinking it's incredible technology. But what he wasn't prepared for was Celia joining him. He wondered if this bitch had any shame, but she told him that she's his sister from Alabama, and asked him if he would really want to join their platoon. After all, she's weak without a holy sword, and they're the worst platoon of all. So seeing how honest she was about the disadvantages, he asked her why she continued fighting when she was so weak, instead of being protected. However, Celia screamed that she could never handle another person she cared about passing away, but her mind had finally broke. Because of that, Leo activated the insignia on her leg, and her eyes glowed red while her vampiric teeth came out. In that moment, she got up towards him, sucking the blood out of him. When she wondered what she just did, Leo revealed that he'd been lying about his holy sword this entire time, because he could never revive someone, and that Celia would never be alive again. By the time Celia woke up, she wondered how he got her to the bed, and asked him who he really was, so he decided to tell her the truth. In his previous life, he was the demon lord who was able to use magic instead of holy swords. So to bring her back from the dead, he used his most powerful phase 10 spell, Create Elder Undead, and made her the highest ranking vampire queen in this world. After going an entire day without blood, she had to suck it from his neck before dying. And once she realized he wasn't lying, she told him that she wanted to share her past with him. 9 years ago, a large-scale void attack destroyed her entire country, and because they were the only 2 young survivors, the government took them in, using them as weapons in dangerous missions. Even so, her only wish was to destroy the voids, and thought that her holy sword would awaken faster since she had the bloodline of the strongest warrior, but has still yet to awaken her powers. Now that she'd died, she wondered if she would still be able to awaken her holy sword, so Leo told her that she definitely will. But his stomach started growling because he wanted to drink some milk out of her tip. At the cafeteria, Celia wondered why she had no appetite anymore, so he told her that eating food was the slowest way for her to regain her mana. When she asked him what he would be eating, he told her that he would just eat bread. But Celia said that he'd end up malnutritioned if he doesn't eat better. However, Leo told her that he wouldn't take advice from a worthless zombie, crushing her emotions. And he realized that being a vampire was actually hurting her feelings. She asked him how he planned on paying for his food, so Leo pulled out a gold coin and thought the gold digger would fall for him, saying that he has a mountain of 20 million gold coins to command his army of undead. However, Celia told him that her country only accepts credit cards, and that his gold coins were as worthless as his ugly face, so the only thing he could afford to do was breathe. Just then, 2 guys made fun of an ugly girl's uniform and tried to take it off, but she knocked them away with her wooden sword, telling them that she won't hold back if they try to disrespect her again. It was Celia's lifelong friend, Sakuya, but Leo didn't like her rough sword-wielding hands because they wouldn't be gentle with his demonic bone. At the taverns, the instructor Alto asked Leo to show off his holy sword so they could study the ability types of his weapon. Once he summoned his demon lord staff, she wondered what type it would be, so he claimed that it was a demonic wind type. With wind usually being a support type, she wanted to test out his abilities on the void simulators, and when Alto told him to fight them to show off his power, Leo crushed all of the robots with a single strike. Neither one of them believed he was just a support type, and everyone from outside comes to see the destruction he created. He realized that his ordinary life was now ruined, and as she tried increasing the stats of the void simulators, Musel said that he would be measuring Leo's powers instead. Leo accepted, but said he'd be weaker than the robots, pissing Musel off as he activated his holy sword along with his girl followers. Celia screamed that it was unfair to have all 5 of them fight Leo, but Musel said that it was his holy sword's ability to control people's minds, so he wasn't doing anything against the rules. Even so, Leo accepted to fight all 5 of them alone, and when Alto reminded him that he can always back down, Celia said that she'd be backing up Leo since she's his guardian. Musel thought it was perfectly fine, but said that if they were to lose, he would make Celia join his harem, so Leo accepted. But in exchange, Leo told Musel that he would never talk to Celia again if he loses, so Musel accepted his condition. As soon as the match began, Celia rushed forward, but Musel's lackeys continued parrying all of her blows. Leo realized that her speed had already increased since she became the vampire queen, and when the redhead smashed the ground, Celia began slashing all the rocks away. While she was distracted, Musel sent his 2 other girls to take care of Leo, but he told Celia that he would be okay. The girl casted her lightning magic towards him, but he released the power of his shadows to prevent her from moving, and launched her off balance. At the same time, Celia took care of the 2 girls, and told Musel to stop running behind girls like a coward. Regina managed to barely make it to the training area, while Celia continued subduing all of his lackeys. But as she got closer, he used his holy sword magic, absolute domination on her, and froze her in place. He casted her sword away, and began dragging his stick all over her body, but said that he needed to finish Leo off first. Seeing that he was cornered by all 5 of them, Leo knew that he could still destroy them with a single blow, but Celia kept repeating that she would protect Leo, and swore that no one would harm him. As her voice chanted louder, a holy light began appearing, and her holy sword materialized as she broke Musel's absolute domination spell. Within an instant, she rushed forward to break his holy sword, and all of the girls stopped being under his mind control. Celia asked him if he would forfeit, and he promised to start going to rehab. Regina ran to hug onto Celia and congratulated her for awakening her holy sword. When they were back home, Celia thanked Leo for helping her, but he said that she was the one who protected him, so she smiled and swore that she would always protect him as his older sister. However, she wanted to request one more thing from him, and that was for both of them to get stronger together. To celebrate her holy sword awakening, Regina threw a party for all of them. They wondered what they should name her sword, and while Regina thought Shining Saint Sword was a cool name, Celia thought the Demon Lord's Bone would be better. Even though she had awakened it, she felt that its true power was still dormant. but they wondered what they should do with Leo now that he'd be living with them. Since there wasn't any free rooms left, they realized he would need to sleep with one of them. Regina told him that her room is the best because she would always play with his celery stick. Sorry, I meant play with her celery sticks. Fine told him that she had an even bigger cannon than Regina's holy sword.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
While Sakuya told him that she was the best at handling swords.
What do you mean by that?
However, Celia told them that Leo would be staying only in her room. But when the girls wondered why, Leo said that she was his guardian this entire time, and that she needs to suck him for his magical fluid all night so she can keep living. Inside Fine's room, she told him that he should pay attention to her eyes when she tells the story instead of the ones under her face. Seeing a map on her computer, he asked her if he could have a copy of it, and when he was alone, he began trying to relocate the location of his death hold, and saw that the voids spawned where his battles had went on. And when he called Blackus out, Blackus revealed that there was a large crystal placed under the island, and that while humans think they're controlling magic, they're actually extracting the crystal's powers. At the same time, Sherry came and told him that she finished her scouting mission and brought a legendary item called the donut. When he thought it was delicious, she told him that she even traveled to Mashal's universe to steal some cream puffs. But after putting the food away, she told him that not a single person remembers the Demon King, and feels as if everyone's memories had been deleted. Hearing the shower, she asked him if he was enjoying the new girl more than her, but he told Sherry that she was an ugly-ass bitch compared to his highest-ranking vampire queen. Hearing those words made her sad because she felt as if she wasn't enough, but he told her that she was nothing but a worthless ugly maid that needed to know her place. Just then, Celia told him that she was done showering, and Leo couldn't control being the king of the bones. That night, two divers were exploring under the ocean, and saw a mysterious creature underneath. But as soon as they saw the great sage's face, he crushed both of them with his vines. In the 16th year of the Holy God calendar, Leo was one of the great 6 heroes of the world, and an ugly loser, who never learned how to open his eyes, was leading him to the site of a giant orc that was destroying the nearby villages. However, the man opened his eyes for the first time in his life, and when they got to the site, Leo wondered where the monsters were, but saw that the man had disappeared. As he felt uneasy and tried to draw his sword, 3 mages casted their barrier magic to suppress his movement, and 5 more soldiers ran to restrain him with chains. Once he was caught, they pulled him up and stopped him from moving, but he managed to free one of his legs. However, the men stabbed him with their spears, and even though Leo tried to resist, he had already lost too much blood, so the men dropped him on the floor. As his body laid lifeless, the soldiers were glad to finally defeat Leo, since the people liked him more than the king, and he was strong enough to overthrow their entire kingdom. When they walked away, Leo heard a heavenly voice telling him that it wasn't his time, and wondered why he walked into their trap, especially since he knew they were about to kill him. However, he revealed that he only wanted to make the people feel safe, so when she asked him if he regretted saving them from the SS rank calamity, he told her that he didn't. After all, he didn't view them as evil, but the goddess told him that she didn't care whether they were evil or not, because this entire world is evil. She wanted to begin a rebellion against the world, and when Leo asked her why she was inviting him, she told him that he was the only one she could ask for support, but then revealed she was lying. Her real reason was because she'd been watching him all this time, and has fallen in love with him, telling him that it's boring to be a hero, so he should become hers. His eyes shifted towards her, and Leo woke up from the dream, determined to find Roselia and to restore the Demon Lord's army. At the same time, Celia was sleeping, but Leo commanded her to wake up, and her body levitated upwards, wondering what took over her. Leo showed her the insignia on his arm, saying that she is forced to do anything he wants since she was now his servant. When she heard those words, she realized that he could do anything he wants to her, but told him to be gentle since she doesn't like it rough. However, Leo said that her body was as worthless as her face, especially since she spent all of last night sucking his body fluids out. Celia apologized because she can't control her desires for sucking his blood while sleeping, but Leo told her that he doesn't mind her sucking his fluids out as long as she stops using her teeth. When she wondered if they were talking about the same thing, Fine began calling her phone, and told her that there was a massive meeting where the leaders talked about colossal events in the sea last night. Celia asked her what they were talking about, so she said that 3 soldiers disappeared mysteriously, and that she would investigate the source of disruption, but the only thing that was disrupting was her entire fleet of missiles in the back.
We must stay focused, brothers. We must Stay focused.
After hanging up, she told Leo that they won't be having school today, so she wanted to spend her time training with him. At the same time, the generals of the island were still searching for the missing divers, but when they pulled up the footage from the night before, they realized that a void creature caused their disappearance. At the same time, Celia was practicing against the drone robots, and after knocking them away and slashing one of them down, the system finished her session. Leo thought it was incredible how gracefully she handled the sword. However, he wanted to give her an actual challenge, and summoned his wand before surrounding them with a magical concealment sphere. From the ground, he began spawning a horde of skeletons, but Celia was scared because she hadn't seen any skeletons before, but began rushing towards them. One by one, she began slashing all of them down, and leaped to evade their attacks as Leo summoned hundreds more. By the time she defeated all of them, she moaned from how exhausted she had become, so Leo activated his wand to swallow their dead bodies away. She bent over to thank him, and Leo said that he'll allow her to replenish her mana, saying that she's already grown much stronger than before. Even then, she still wanted Leo to train her harder and show her how to handle the sword. But before he told her to watch what she's saying, his stomach began growling from how hungry he had become. Meanwhile, Fine's sphere was scouting the assault garden for the disappeared men, and underneath the island, a group of divers were still searching for their bodies. On the other side of the island, Sakuya's ugly ass had finally gambled all her money away, but saw Blackus sitting alone. As she got closer, she realized that he had no collar and decided to name him Kurigane. But as he growled at her, she tied up her food to him and bid him goodbye. Inside Fine's dorm, Mrs. Massive Cannons came in and told Fine to try her new warm liquidy soup, wanting to know if it was good before making Leo eat all of her liquid out. Fine wished her luck, and Sakuya walked in telling them that something smelled like fish. But when Regina told her that it must be the new meal she made, Sakuya told her that it was definitely something else. Inside the city, Leo was still shocked at how nice their civilization was, and how everyone lived in peace. Meanwhile, Sherry's dumbass had become a chef to feed Leo the best food, and when her boss asked her to cut up the potatoes, she told him that she had a sharper knife and slashed everything along with his plate. The boss screamed, saying this was the reason her master disowned her ugly, worthless ass.
What did he say?
As she was about to clean the outside of the store, she saw Celia driving Leo around, and as Celia went to get food for him, Sherry stared in jealousy and wondered why he would pick an ugly hag over her. A few minutes later, Celia arrived at the restaurant she wanted to show him, but when a bunch of kids came out to see Celia, he wondered why they had come to an orphanage. However, she told him that they made their money by selling food like a restaurant, and when Leo saw how some of them used to be his same age, he remembered the days where he would be starving with barely any money. Some ugly fat ass asked him if he was friends with Celia, and while Celia was unpacking the food she got, some prankster came to pick up her skirt. But before Leo could kill him, Celia told him that he's just a child who has no idea what he's doing, so he pulled his shadows away. Underneath the ocean, the new divers wondered where the structure had disappeared off to. But inside the cavern, a man heard a vibration against the wall, and Fine saw the monitor read the vibration, while Sakuya felt it in her bones. Two men were talking about how shit the recent anti-climax video was, but they saw giant branches all around the facility, ready to devour their worthless asses for hating on my videos. Back in the past, a horde of ogres began invading the city, while Terrace watched along with Ericale as they destroyed all the homes. When Leo stared at them, Ericale began preparing to annihilate the entire town with a nuclear bomb, hoping that Terrace would resurrect them after they were brutally killed. However, Leo could not bear to witness all the children dying, so he unsheathed his sword and destroyed Ericale's magic, before jumping off the walls and beginning to slash the orcs down. As he continued evading their strikes, he eliminated all of them with his sword, and even grappled one of them down like a Russian wrestler, before the town acknowledged him as their hero. However, Ericale thought the citizens loving Leo was dangerous, especially with his overpowered holy sword, so he knew they would need to one day eliminate him, and that day had finally come. Inside the Tesseract's chamber, Ericale managed to breach through the walls, but the sentries continued bombarding his branches as the rest of his void army appeared. At the same time, Ericale continued getting closer to the fortress's power plant until he was able to breach its insides, and began harvesting all of its energy. Outside of the orphanage, Celia heard the emergency alarms as a stampede of voids began to enter from a dimensional portal. As the skyscraper began merging to unleash all of the sentry missiles, they began firing bullets at the void dragons, eliminating thousands of them per second, and Regina used her massive dragon blaster to destroy one of the voids. but Leo realized that it wouldn't be enough to hold off the unlimited assault of them. When Celia realized that all of their communications were offline, she ran to bring the kids to the evacuation shelter, but Leo told her that it was too dangerous to leave the house as a void flew right next to them. So after seeing that, she told them to stay inside and went outside to activate her holy sword. But Leo knew that she was still far from awakening her true potential as the vampire queen. So he summoned his demonic staff, and Celia rushed forward to slash the voids down, killing 2 of them with a single slash. From behind her, she saw 2 voids were burned, and was shocked that Leo was able to take care of them on his own. But just then, the portals to the void dimensions began growing even greater, and from inside, Leo saw the void dragon lord appearing. As Regina continued blasting more dragons down, the portals began releasing giant ogre-class voids. But Sakuya rushed towards them, and activated her lightning abilities to slash them down. After destroying the final ogre, Regina continued blasting the others from the sky, and Fine told them that there weren't any voids within 300 meters anymore. However, they saw a giant Hydra-class void appearing, while a massive elder dragon flew from the outside, and destroyed all of the sentry turrets that were deployed. After seeing its power, Leo realized that even the dragon race was destroyed by the voids, and knew that regular spells wouldn't be enough to protect them. So as Celia ran to protect Leo, he decided to release his greatest spell to defeat the dragon, but wondered why he was trying to save humans. Even so, it didn't matter to him, because he didn't want Celia to be in danger, so he activated a level 10 destructive spell, and hundreds of fireballs began raining down onto the dragon, defeating all of the voids in the distance. After the dragon collapsed onto the ground, Celia barely evaded its fire breath, so Leo knew that he needed to defeat the dragon quickly, and released Blackus to distract the dragon. In that moment, he activated his level 10 gravity spell, crushing the dragon down until all of its bones were broken. When the dust settled, Celia realized that he defeated a mega colossal void, but wanted to feel his mega colossal bone. Just then, an earthquake began separating the field, and a tentacle monster began choking Celia before eating her out. From inside the ground, Arakale appeared, and after Leo heard its voice calling out his name, he realized that Arakale had still survived through these 1,000 years. In the year 434 of the Holy God calendar, Leo entered his giant castle, but saw that Roselia had been waiting for him. So he offered her all the treasures he gained from defeating the legendary Goblin Lord. But Roselia wanted to also give him something for all the time he'd spent with her. Before his eyes, she summoned the holy sword he used to wield before becoming the Undead King, but told him that it would be impossible for a demon to wield it. However, she infused it with a demonic aura, telling him that it can only be wielded when a condition was fulfilled, and that it will always reveal the truth. As Leo faced off against Arakale, he began summoning more voids along his tentacles, but Leo used his scepter to burn them away. As he looked down the hole, he activated his mark of control to make sure that Celia was still alive, but realized that this was a trap that Arakale was luring him into. Even so, he summoned Blackus and told him that they would be saving Celia, but thought it was disgusting that Arakale had turned himself into the leader of the Voids. As they looked back, Blackus wondered what they would be doing about the children, so rather than letting them die, Leo prepared to cast a barrier to protect them. But just then, one of the girls said she was grateful to him for saving them, and wished that he would save Celia and bring her back. Seeing that they weren't disgusted by his powers shocked him, but he told her that he would definitely bring Celia back, and activated a level 8 spell to cast a barrier around them. Along with the barrier, he summoned an army of undead soldiers, telling the kids that they would be safe as long as they stayed within the barrier's walls. After he began leaving, Blackus offered him a royal meal, but as Leo was about to devour Blackus's meat, he saw Fine's orbs floating above them, and Celia's communication device began going off. At the same time, Sakuya leaped to slash the Hydra-class void, and Regina blasted it off to protect Sakuya from its attacks. Just then, 3 ogres began attempting to attack her, and while they continued battling against the Hydra, Fine tried calling Celia to join them in defeating the massive void. However, Leo revealed that she had been abducted by the voids, and needed Fine's help in locating Celia's holy sword. The Hydra continued attempting to eat Sakuya out, while Regina attempted to hold it off, but a dragon nearly flanked her in the last moment. At the same time, Leo asked Fine if she was able to see the field around them, but when she saw the destruction, he pretended like he wasn't the one that caused all of the damage. So as Fine began tracing Celia's biosignature, she was able to find that Celia was taken to the fortress's power supply. Without noticing it, the void was about to eat her out, but Sherry came to destroy the void, and she was sad that her master was working her to the bone, but wished he would put his bone through her donut hole.
What do you mean by that?
Inside the power tunnels, Leo began riding Blackus towards the Tesseract. But Blackus wondered why he sent Sherry to save the humans. After all, they would be facing off against one of the 6 heroes, and he was using a large amount of mana to protect the children with his barrier magic. Realizing that he'd been caught, Leo decided to reveal that he began to like humans, and Blackus thought his kindness was the reason they became friends. As they approached a wall, Leo blew it up with his fire magic, but when he entered inside, he saw the way Ericale had completely devoured the Tesseract. After he attempted to cast his fire magic to burn the roots, he realized that fire had no effect on Ericale's regenerative abilities, and Ericale wondered how he was still alive after 1,000 years. So Leo revealed that he sealed his body away instead of becoming a puppet of the voids. But Ericale revealed that he would be rebuilding the world along with the empty star, and swore to destroy anything that came in his way. As Leo wondered what the empty star was, humanoid faces began appearing on branches, and he realized that those were the souls of the priests from the Sacred Order. Deep inside his roots, Celia was struggling to move, but Ericale launched an attack towards Leo, and as they began running away, Leo barely managed to avoid all of his blows. While in the air, Leo activated his Ice Beam spell, but the roots kept regenerating before Blackus blew them away with his Hellfire. The two of them were losing their mana while Ericale continued absorbing it, and he began forcing the priests to pray and activate his level 8 Holy Sorcery magic. The beams of light began firing towards Leo, and they narrowly grazed him, but even with his gravity magic combined with Blackus's Hellfire, they were unable to scathe Ericale. As Leo stood back, he realized that there was only one way for them to survive this battle, and at the same time, Celia wished she could be of use to Leo. After all, she thought there was no point to awakening her holy sword if she was nothing but a hostage, and realized she would be watching the person she cared about die in front of her again. So she summoned her holy sword, but was still unable to move. Outside the core, Leo leaped to activate his Grand Beld, and summoned Blackus to activate his Howling Blaze. In that instant, Ericale activated his holy magic against them, and Leo continued struggling to locate Celia. Deep inside, Celia promised that she wouldn't give up this time, and her blood began growing scales, freeing as they slashed the roots holding her back. Just then, Leo saw her blood emanating, and shot the device deep into her heart, allowing her to absorb his blood and release her full powers. As she slashed outside, Blackus apologized for using all of his mana, but Celia was glad to see Leo, and flew towards him. As soon as she grabbed his hand, they began falling down. But Leo helped her descend and was glad that her vampiric abilities were finally able to activate. After all, he was sure that just a drop of his blood was enough for her to evolve, but Ericale promised that this would be their end. All of the priests began praying once again, and as he summoned 30 level 10 nuclear bombs, Leo knew how to destroy Ericale's magic, but asked Celia to protect him until he was able to activate his secret weapon. The branches continued growing towards them, but Celia injured herself and activated the powers of her blood to destroy the branches. At the same time, Leo decided to unleash the weapon he was hiding, but Blackus warned him that it could delete his entire personality if his convictions were weak. As he remembered Roselia's warning that the Holy Sword's powers could only be used to protect his kingdom, he drew the blade out and promised to make humanity's last fortress his own kingdom, using demonic Excalibur to protect his lands. From now on, he swore that protecting the humans would become his duty, and began chanting the noble phantasm to activate the powers of the blade, and transforming Excalibur into its demonic form, Dainsleif. Blackus realized that the demon sword had accepted Leo's resolve, and he noticed that Ericale was afraid of this sword, so Leo promised to destroy him with all of his power. After absorbing the sword's infinite energy, Leo activated Ragna Lost and shot it to decimate Ericale, annihilating him forever in that instant. Outside the Tesseract, the voids began falling from the sky without fighting back, and the portals completely ceased from existence. As Leo exited from the sewers, Regina ran to hug Celia, and all of them were glad that they all managed to survive the battle. The following day, all of Leo's muscles were sore, and he realized that Celia must have sucked the soul out of him last night. Speaking of the disgusting devil, the ugly bitch came inside the room and handed him the medal the orphanage kids made for him. However, she wondered if she could suck him again, so he agreed to let her suck his tip.
お嬢様、少年の様子はって
Regina wondered why the fuck they didn't invite her to join, and while Sakuya thought it was disgusting, Fine wanted to keep watching them develop plot. However, she swore that she wasn't sucking him off to taste his delicious warm bodily fluids. On the other side of the ocean, a battleship was traveling towards the fortress, and a princess wanted to meet the holy swordsmen that were able to destroy the entire stampede. The following morning, Leo began heading to the holy library to discover how the void started spawning. But when he tried using his access card, a spirit owl said that no disgusting children were allowed inside. However, when Leo tried saying he was a student, Regina blinded him and asked him to guess who it was, but he could never forget the feeling of the biggest cannons in the kingdom, and told her to quit teasing him. As she went up to the spirit to let them in, she activated her secret magic to overwrite the owl's access, and allowed them inside. While they were looking for plot development mangas, their phones began going off, informing them that a tournament will be held soon, in the presence of the Princess Alteria. After hearing that name, Regina began acting weird, and told Leo that she would be seeing him later before leaving. On the other side of the world, a group of beasts gathered to plan the kidnapping of the princess while the tournament took place. But after Elsa warned them that humans carried weapons, a mysterious hot girl said that she knew how to deal with the holy swords, and promised to bestow them with a power that could even destroy Excalibur. Before their eyes, she summoned a holy sword, and using its power, she began enhancing Bastia's physical powers until he was able to cut a tree down with a single slash. However, she revealed that these weren't holy swords, but were actually demonic swords granted by the goddess. The only condition she had for helping them kidnap the princess was that the goddess demanded a sacrifice, so she wanted to use the holy swordsmen as hostages and introduced herself as Sharnak. Back at the base, Leo finally saw something that was bigger than Regina's cannons, and thought that he needed an entire fleet of those battleships for his demonic kingdom. At the same time, he tried picking a bracelet as a gift for Celia, but after selecting an elven ring, the princess appeared before the people. From the distance, Regina began spying on her movements, and felt a distant longing in her heart. At the same time, Celia found Leo after searching for hours, but before she could scream at him for disappearing, he handed her the cat keychain he bought for her. Seeing her calm down, he realized that the easiest way to keep a woman's mouth shut is by buying her bullshit gifts. However, she thought only the King of Bones knew how to seduce a girl into shutting her mouth in the bedroom. But Leo never realized he could shut a woman's mouth using his bone. Just then, another blonde bitch appeared, and when Celia wondered what Fenris was doing, she told Celia that the vice president has actual work to do than babysitting an ugly child all day. However, Fine came to break up the pussy fight, and Fenris started walking past them, but stopped halfway to congratulate her on awakening her worthless holy sword. Aboard the battleship, one of the soldiers was killed before Bastia killed his comrade, and slashed his face off to steal their appearance, allowing the beasts to blend in undercover. During the ceremony, Leo began reading the history scroll he stole from the library, but he realized that the existence of the 6 heroes and the goddess were being deleted from history, and he wondered if someone was colluding with the voids. However, he noticed Sherry was waiting for him, and asked her why she was wearing a waitress outfit. But she told him that her shorter skirt allowed for easier access for the King of Bones. Leo ignored her desperate ass, but before she left, he revealed that he'd bought her a present for being the greatest maid in the world. But when he whipped out his meat,
Pause.
she realized that Leo was a moron that had no idea what presents were. But after he heard Celia's voice, Sherry disappeared along with the scroll he obtained. As he turned around, he realized that his King of Bones was finally going to be rising after 1,000 years, and Tessera wanted to swim with him. However, he revealed that he didn't have a swimsuit, so Celia told him that she wouldn't mind teaching him how to swim. As he struggled to keep moving forward, he realized that he needed a floaty, and thought it was unfair that Celia had 2 massive floaties to keep her from drowning. All of the adults thought it was cute how Leo was learning how to swim, but when one of the girls bounced her beach ball onto his face, he wished his face would drown in Celia's massive beach balls. As the sun was setting, Regina sat alone sadly, wondering why she was going this far to conceal her existence. At the same time, 3 guards began escorting the princess to the control room, but one of them was killed by the undercover agent, while the others were clapped by the tiger beast. After taking both of their masks off, they grabbed Alteria to take her away, but she released her spirit fox so she could escape. However, Sharnak told her that this wouldn't be changing anything, and in the middle of the ceremony chamber, an undercover beast shot one of the soldiers, and all of them revealed their true forms. Leo realized that there might be more hiding among them, so he decided to remain undercover. As they activated their weapons, Fenris felt brave enough to take care of them, but a single bullet was enough to put the ugly bitch back in her place. The elder summoned a bomb apple, saying that it would explode if they attempted anything suspicious. After taking all of their phones away, Fenris said they would never negotiate with bandits. But before the wolf would kill her, Sharnak reminded him that they can't kill any of the hostages for the goddess. When Leo heard them talking about the goddess, he told Celia that he would be looking for the princess and vanished from behind them. Although Sakuya wondered where he went, Sharnak noticed something was off, but the girls pretended as if nothing had happened. Inside the control room, the beasts began forcing the princess to activate the engine of the ship, but she asked them if they would let all the hostages go if she complied. Although they promised her they would, the princess realized they were heading straight into a stampede of voids. Vastia thought this would kill all of them, but Sharnak told them to keep moving forward, saying that she couldn't care less about their worthless plan. When Bastia realized she had been tricking them all along, he activated his sword to kill her, but she thought he was a worthless moron, and released the fires inside of the demon's sword to burn him alive, killing him in that instant. As she turned towards the tiger, she told him to comply if he wanted to keep surviving. Outside the boat, Regina realized that something must be off since the ship wasn't supposed to move until tomorrow. But as she stared, the spirit fox appeared before her eyes. After she knelt down to grab it, she heard the voice of the princess asking her to call for help. But the ship had already broke the restraints, so Regina ran and leaped to the ship, hoping that she would manage to make it in time. Meanwhile, Leo realized his dumbass was lost, but the spirit fox appeared before him, and Regina's massive cannons nearly squished his head. Leo begged her to smash his face with her cannons next time, but she told him that her little sister was in danger. 12 years into the past, the Scarlet Calamity Star was shining in the sky as Regina was born, so she was sentenced to death. However, the Duke begged the king to keep her alive, so he took her back to his home and raised her as his own daughter, along with their actual daughter. As the two got older, Regina became a personal servant for their biological daughter to conceal her identity, and revealed that only the other girls knew the truth. Because of that, she was one of the only people that can communicate with spirits, and told him that the princess must have been kidnapped if the ship was moving. When he heard those words, Leo revealed that the other girls were also kidnapped, so Regina let the spirit fox lead them to where the princess was. Inside the hall, Fenris wondered where the ship was moving, but Wolverine told her to shut up before he shoved the apple into her mouth and exploded inside of her. Just then, Fine told her that she'd finished analyzing the bomb, so she would need just a single second of distraction in order to disarm it. As Celia looked around for a way to buy some time, she saw a fork was left behind her, so she began trying to grab the fork and pierced her skin to let her vampiric blood out. At the same time, Regina had found the control room, but all of them had left, and she was unable to steer the ship anymore. The only way to save them was to find the princess, but Leo wondered what was stopping her. After all, they could communicate through their spiritual royal blood, but Regina thought it would mean revealing that she was alive. Even so, Leo told her that saving her sister from getting killed was more important than something so small. Realizing how mature he was, she said that she'll smother his face in her weapons of mass distraction. So she began trying to communicate to her sister, and on the other side of the spiritual connection, she began hearing her sister's voice. However, Regina concealed her identity and asked her where she was being taken, so the princess revealed that they were heading towards the helicopter deck. At the same time, the ship was moving towards a void reef, so Alteria gave her the secret access code for the emergency steering controls. When Regina wondered what she would do, Leo blasted the window, revealing that he would save the princess while she went to the secret control area. As he jumped outside, Celia had managed to create a thread of her blood towards the disgusting old hag. But as soon as she was about to give the signal, Fenris decided to open her loud-ass mouth once again. When Wolverine grabbed her and said he would shove his sword into her mouth, Sakuya broke out of her rope and apologized for dropping a plate. As Wolverine was about to restrain her, Elsa warned him that she's part of the Void-killing Auran clan. But before he could move forward, Fenris said she would be the first to fight, and Celia extended her thread, while Fenris lured the wolf into attacking her before knocking him down. As the elf was about to unleash the bomb, Fine used her spell to delay its activation, and Celia broke apart his wand. Before Elsa would shoot at the hostages, Sakuya summoned her sword and knocked her down, while Fenris activated her frost wolves to bite Wolverine, freezing him down. Using her blood, Celia broke from her restraints and knocked the elder elf out, and the bomb began dematerializing. Fenris thought her distraction worked out, but as Celia attempted to contact Leo, she realized there was interference blocking all of their communications, and Tessera noticed there was something off outside. Fine realized they were deep inside a void reef, and as two of them jumped onto the ship, Fenris summoned more of her wolves, while the other girls prepared to battle. After one of the voids jumped in, two ice wolves began devouring it until they broke it apart, while Sakuya evaded before slashing it down. As the wolves rushed to eliminate more voids, the monsters were able to hold them off, but the girls tried to help the rest of the citizens escape. Just then, Celia began hearing Leo's voice coming from the pendant he gifted her, and he told her that Regina was going to move them out of the void reef while he protected the princess. However, he needed them to continue protecting the other citizens. But as Sharnak was taking the princess onto the helicopter, she told her that she would become a plaything for sadists. Inside the ship, Regina continued blasting a bunch of voids out of her way, but they continued appearing from inside the portals until Celia slashed them down with her vampire magic. At the same time, Sakuya continued slashing against the voids while the frozen wolves bit them down and froze them to death. However, a massive portal began to open, and from inside, a Brain Eater class void emerged. As the wolves attempted to attack it, it knocked them down, and a void nearly ate Fenris out until Fine rescued her. Sakuya told them that she would take care of the beast while they protected the others, so the girls retreated and closed the door to separate them. In that moment, Sakuya began activating her secret art that was forbidden among the ninja clan, and Regina entered the secret control area to blast more of the voids. But although her strikes were ineffective, they were neutralized by Celia's vampiric abilities, and they ran together towards the core of the engine. As Celia knelt down, she began entering the secret access code, the Scarlet Calamity, and Regina was glad that her sister had been thinking about her throughout all those years. The spirit fox got onto Regina's lap, and the ship's powers activated. At the same time, the tiger begged them not to leave him alone, but got devoured by all the voids. However, the princess realized that they were exiting the void reef, but as the helicopter tried to fly away, Sharnak noticed that it was tied down, and 3 voids were blasted out of existence. At the same time, the girls were cornered as Fine ran out of ammo, but Tessera was confident that Leo would save them. In the last moment, all of the voids began to disintegrate, and Sherry had managed to slip through the shadows while saving them. She wished her master would stop working her to the bone, and instead, she wanted him to let her suck his bone. Inside the other room, Sakuya had managed to neutralize the Brain Eater, and outside the ship, Leo introduced himself as the Demon Bone Lord. However, Sharnak thought he was a disrespectful brat and tried to blow him out of existence, but he neutralized it with a single blow. In that instant, she realized she was clapped, because only the Demon Lord can activate the magic neutralization spell, so he casted his shadow restraints onto her and began choking her until she revealed the truth. All along, she was sacrificing innocent beings to create demon swords for the goddess, but when he asked her for the goddess's name, demonic swords began piercing out of her body before she could answer, killing her in that instant. From inside of her, the Demon Lord Slayer sword appeared and opened dozens of void portals from around him. He realized that even the holy weapons were consumed by the demons, so he activated a level 8 fireball. But the void absorbed all of its energy. This was the secret power of the holy sword, but it vanished before his eyes and nearly fell on top of him. At the same time, the other voids began rushing to eat the princess, but although he blasted them off, the void appeared above him until Leo vanished in the last instant. From the camera system, Regina was able to watch the battle and activated the remote sentries to fire at all the voids. However, the colossal void was still unscathed, so from inside the pool, she activated a rocket launcher that began firing missiles onto the void. As she fired a rocket that contained Celia, Leo caught her to stop her from falling. But the voids continued ripping through space-time to enter their dimension. Realizing there was only one way out, Leo asked Celia if she could buy him some time, so she released her blood to slash all the beasts down with her magic. As she began clearing the way for him, Leo began to summon his demonic Excalibur once again, and activated his ultimate ability, Ragna Lost. The entire field glowed a white light as the beast vanished from existence. After the night was over, the battleship was brought back to the fortress, and the princess thanked them for saving her. However, she wondered where the boy disappeared off to, so Celia revealed that he was feeling sick after she sucked his Sucked his blood. I meant sucked his blood. In his bed, Leo wondered when Celia would stop sucking the soul out of him, But just then, Regina said she would come to take care of him, and told him that she would be feeding him her cream pie. However, she thanked him for letting him save her sister and kissed him on the cheek, asking him if he wanted to develop plot, and promised that she wouldn't tell Celia.
Yeah, boy.
Deep inside the jungles of another territory, the soldiers located innocent beastmen to get revenge for the princess. But although they cornered all of them, Leo's voice emanated around them, and he casted a spell to turn them all into stone. When the beasts wondered who he was, he appeared and told them to bow before him, forcing all of them down onto their knees. He introduced himself as Zal Vadis and commanded them to serve under him if they wanted to survive, because the humans would depetrify in a few minutes. When the beasts agreed to become part of his army, he created an underground labyrinth for them to escape into, telling them to become stronger before their uprising against the Empire.
あ、レオくん、どこにいるの？黙っていなくなられ。
Back inside of their dorms, Celia wondered where Leo had disappeared off to, but saw Sherry was inside of his room. When she brushed her eyes, she realized that she was gone along with Leo. But when she called him, he hung up in her disgusting face, so she decided to shower. At the same time, Leo came back into his room and realized that Celia embarrassed him in front of his new minions. But when he entered the living room, he realized that he needed to hide his King of Bones from her. However, Regina entered the room and wondered why they didn't invite her to join again. But they told her that they weren't developing plot, and she pretended to believe them. As Leo began eating the sandwich out, Celia wished she was the sandwich, but he realized that she hadn't sucked off his blood in a long time. As a crow flew by, Regina thought they were living in Hero Brian's mansion, because along with all the crows, there was a massive black dog guarding their entrance, and a ghost maid that was constantly lurking around. Leo realized that his servant's ability to hide was just as useless as Regina's personality. Eventually, the day of the tournament arrived, and as Celia snuck around with Leo in the field, they narrowly avoided a barrage of arrows as Leo casted a shield to block them. With her opening, Celia took one of the flags down, but there were still 4 more to go. At the same time, Fine was protecting one of their flags along with Regina, and she shot at the feet of one of the lurkers to back them off. However, Fine alerted them that 5 more appeared at 2 o'clock, and as Regina fired, Sakuya used the sound to infiltrate the enemy's bases, but 3 frozen wolves began attacking her to hold her off. At the same time, Celia nearly got another flag, but when one of the wolves distracted her, another one bit her leg and froze it, preventing her from moving forward. Just then, Fenris appeared and told her that she's subdued all of their team. After all, Sakuya was completely stun-locked with chasing the wolves, while only Regina and Fine were left to defend the wall. So with Leo being their last member, she thought the battle was over. Immediately, she summoned the wolves back to her arms, and as Fenris rushed towards her, Celia held Fenris back with her sword and knocked her off before slashing her down. However, Fenris punched her back towards a tree, and 2 more wolves froze her arms to the logs. At the same time, a girl shot 3 arrows towards Leo, but he used his shadows to choke her out. Even though she was locked, Celia swore that she would not lose, and her holy sword heated the ice until it broke and freed her. As she launched towards Fenris, she destroyed her arms, and the captain of the 11th platoon was confirmed to be unconscious. With no one left to defend their flags, Leo's platoon were declared to be the winners, so later that day, Celia began washing him once again with all the other girls in the shower room. As Regina began developing plot, the King of Bones realized that the only thing harder than getting out of this shower was his butt. On the other side of the world, a mysterious man sacrificed one of the demonic holy swords that Sharnak had obtained for him, and he was excited for the day when the goddess of prophecies would be resurrected. From the sky, he opened a dimensional gate to enter the human realm, and inside the last fortress's skyscraper, the commanders were able to capture a photo of the massive structure. However, Celia realized that it was her home that was destroyed when she was younger, and it was heading directly towards them, with an estimated time of arrival of 7 days. On top of that, there were multiple distress signals being sent, but they needed holy swordsmen to investigate how the 3rd Assault Garden was moving towards them. So Celia agreed to take on the mission, but was worried about Leo since he was still a new student. However, he told her that he wouldn't do anything risky, and once Celia agreed to protect him, they began preparing to take off. But as they did, Leo told his familiars that he felt the presence of the Sacred Order's magic, so he asked Blackus to stay behind and protect his kingdom. Blackus asked him if he would finally get a bone for being a good boy, but Sherry begged him for a different kind of bone. As their plane took off, the sun began rising, but Regina told Leo to take a nap on her anime thigh pillows, and dragged his head to clean his ears, as she inserted her stick deep inside of him. Leo remembered the time he was stroking his bone. Roselia asked him if she could polish his bone instead, but he told her to stop with this giggity joke already. However, she revealed that she would be disappearing, and would reincarnate 1,000 years into the future. But when Leo heard those words, he promised he would follow and find her no matter what happened. However, she wanted him to promise her one more thing, and after she let those words out, Leo woke up in Celia's heavenly lap pillow. From outside, Regina showed him that they arrived at the third fortress, but when they landed, they saw how the place had been completely rotten and destroyed. Because of that, Fine told them to split up to find the distress signal, and while they walked away, Leo commanded Sherry to follow the girls and protect them, promising to give her a bone if she behaved. As they kept walking, Celia recognized the town she grew up in, but was sad that it was all gone. Just then, her limiter began going off, and lightning beams began striking them from the sky, dropping a pole to crush Celia underneath. Before their eyes, a massive creature appeared. On the other side of the fortress, a tornado materialized and revealed a hot girl without any plot armor. But after she got up, she saw that she was reincarnated 1,000 years into the future. And after taking some clothes, Arl realized that this must be the place where the goddess was going to be reborn. But after letting those words out, the mysterious man appeared behind her. He wondered how the elf hero was reincarnated in this timeline, and introduced himself as Nephekes the Void Lord. However, she wondered if he was also from the past, but he told her that he wouldn't reveal any of his secrets to her. After all, he knew she wanted to destroy the goddess and swore to stop her from ever getting to her. As she rushed towards him, he vanished before her eyes, telling her to leave if she wanted to continue living. And another giant creature appeared from behind of her. At the same time, Celia was trapped under the concrete, so Leo summoned his scepter to suck her into the ground, and she fell into an underpass where his shadows held her massive cannons to stop her from falling. On the battlefield, the creature tried to burn Leo away, but he casted a fireball that destroyed its shield, and realized that it was using the magic of the fallen angels to deflect his blows. After Fine's orb was blown away, she realized that they must be in trouble, so they decided to begin running towards them, and the fallen angel dragged its holy sword to slash against Leo before he narrowly evaded. As it flew back to cast a barrage of arrows, Leo used his whirlwind magic to block it, and casted a level 9 gravity spell to crush the angel underneath. However, the angel was able to destroy his spell with its holy sword, but Leo had already casted a level 9 fire sphere magic, and crushed the angel underneath until it burnt alive. But for nearly killing Celia, he activated a level 9 lightning spell to obliterate the calamity, and thought it was overkill for a disgusting worm like her. After running to find Celia in the underpass, he wondered if she was hurt, but realized that even with her vampire healing magic, she would be paralyzed for a few more hours. Before he could think of a place for them to hide, a group of ghosts began to appear from behind them. But Celia recognized her family's crest, and the man welcomed her back to her land. He was her godfather, William Richmond, and she realized it was really him after all, so he revealed that they were the ones who sent the distress signals. However, they didn't want help, but to instead prevent the same tragedy from destroying her new fortress, since a new Void Lord had appeared before them. So they decided to take her back to her mansion with their limo, but Leo thought they were too slow, so he summoned 2 giant bone horses, and they began dragging the car towards her mansion. On the other side of the fortress, the girls found Arl sneaking behind a corner, but as Regina approached her, Sakuya pulled her back as the girl showed her sword and slashed towards them. Seeing her power, Sakuya decided to take her on alone, but Arl thought she was colluding with the same guy, and lunged at Sakuya before narrowly dodging her blow. As she clashed against her sword, she leaped back before rushing forward, but Sakuya's blade nearly killed her in that instant. However, Sakuya told her that they were done, and revealed that she would have lost if it wasn't for her wound. Deep inside the fortress's power plant, Nephekes was on the verge of achieving his goal. At the same time, inside the limo, Celia wanted to suck Leo off in the back of the car, and jumped onto him to suck every drop out of his body. But before he could use his magic to control her, Fine's voice appeared in her head, telling her that they found a survivor who claimed that a Void Lord was going to be unleashing a stampede, and told her to be careful. After Fine hung up, Leo told her to give him a warning before she began sucking the soul out of the King of Bones, but she begged him to continue sucking him out. However, he told her that he had something special to give to her, and a dress appeared from inside of the floor, showing her the true ancestor dress he gave to his most loyal minion. With this legendary outfit, she would be able to significantly increase her physical power, but it would drain a lot of her mana, so she should only use it when her life is in danger. When she realized he was worried about her, he told her it's not like he cared about her or anything like that, Baka.
So you're a liar.
Along with the dress, he gave her 3 good luck charms, so she promised to use her best blood-sucking technique to swallow the soul out of him. Inside an abandoned store, Regina finished treating Arl's wounds, but she wondered why she was trying to kill them, so she revealed that the Void Lord could control the minds of the humans, and she was afraid he had been controlling them as well. At the same time, Fine was unable to find Arl's name in any of the records, so she realized that she never existed on the 3rd Assault Garden, and wondered where she came from. However, Arl said that her goal was to complete her mission of vanquishing the goddess, but realized that the history of the goddess was something none of them knew about. As she got up to continue fighting, her fat-ass belly growled, so Sakuya decided to offer her some of her food, and promised that she didn't poison it. From above them, Sherry recognized Arl as one of the 6 heroes who attempted to kill Leo multiple times, but wondered why that ugly flat bitch was back again. Inside the power plant, one of the fallen angels told Nephikas about a human who destroyed their fallen angel queen, so he thought it was about time for him to deal with them. Eventually, Celia arrived back at her castle while wearing her new keychains, and she heard the voices of her childhood friends as she looked back at her familiar town. While they walked inside, the ghosts began leading Celia back to her room. But Leo found a comfortable chair that reminded him of his throne, so he whipped out his bone and began stroking it.
I beg your pardon?
Inside the dining room, she heard the voices of her family celebrating her birthday. But when she saw how destroyed her father's bedroom was, she was completely crushed and cried as she picked up the book. The guards looked at each other to make her feel better, and after casting their magic, they created an illusion of how her room used to be. And she saw the times when her father would read the story of the Demon Lord to her. Although the Demon Lord made the gods angry and was killed by the hero, her father thought the story didn't end there. After letting those words out, Nephikas destroyed her illusion, and when she asked him if he was a survivor, he thought it was a disgusting insult to call him a human, and released his level 8 fire magic to blast at Celia. As Leo heard the explosion, the fire blast had knocked her unconscious with the room burning. Deep in her memories, she remembered the day her father told her to hide inside the shelter, but she wanted to help them fight the stampede with Regina. However, her father told her that she can join them once she awakened her holy sword, but needed to remain safe until then. After all, he reminded her about the story of the Demon Lord, saying that while the undead king was evil, he knew the Demon Lord would come back to save them from the voids when they needed him. As she regained consciousness, she saw that 3 skeletal soldiers were defending her. When the dust settled, Nephikas was shocked to see 3 bone soldiers standing in his way, and they swore to defend her until Leo came back. To destroy all of them, Nephikas began to activate a level 9 fire blast, but Leo casted his own fireball before Nephikas could retaliate. After getting blasted away, Celia wondered who the soldiers were, so Leo revealed that they were the 3 keychains he gifted her, and they were all the greatest heroic warriors of the underworld. However, they began fighting over whose bone saved Celia, and who would be the one giving her the bone. But she wondered why everything constantly involved somebody getting boned in this show. As they kept fighting, Nephikas rose from the flames, and said that his power would be enough to kill any level 10 beast, but that it wouldn't be strong enough to kill someone like him. As he casted his fire spell, Leo leapt in front of the soldiers and activated his ice magic to destroy his flames, shocking Nephikas at how someone could have overpowered him. When Leo got closer, he commanded him to answer his questions, but the earth began quaking, and Nephikas started laughing. When Leo asked him what could be funnier than his ugly face, Nephikas revealed that Terrace had finally devoured all of her sacrifices, and that the goddess would now be resurrected, so he would disappear back into the voids. Although Leo tried to catch him, Nephikas told him that the world will be destroyed by the goddess, and after he was gone, Leo remembered him being one of the 8 demon lords, and wondered if Roselia was truly behind all of this. The crest of the Holy Order emanated into the skies, and the skeletons told him that they needed to escape the building. When they got out, he saw the giant body of Terrace rising from the ground, and the heavenly chorus began emanating as the fallen angels began to enhance her powers. She was the remnants of the corrupt Terris Resurrectia he remembered, and Regina noticed that a stampede was forming in the center of the fortress. As the communications went offline, Sakuya told Arl to remain hidden while she ran away, and Fine used her magic to launch a missile that turned into a signal flare. After Terris emerged from the ground, she summoned her stampede throughout the entire fortress, but Celia activated her sword, and as a void rushed towards her, she slashed it down. At the same time, Fine realized they wouldn't have enough time to evacuate the entire 7th Garden, so they needed to defeat the Void Lord, but 3 voids broke into their room. As Arl watched from the distance, she felt that the goddess had returned. At the same time, Celia's slashes were ineffective against the angel's regeneration, and while the soldiers continued blasting them, they noticed that all their fatal wounds kept healing. None of them knew how to deal with it, and even the girls realized their enemies were immortal, so Fine decided to run a scan onto them. Just then, Leo's fireball blew the head of an angel, killing it in that moment, so he told them to aim for their heads to counter their regeneration. After Fine's analysis was complete, Sakuya pierced the head of the void, and the skeletons realized they couldn't be outdone by Celia. So in that moment, they began releasing all of their secret techniques, and Leo saw that Terris was moving towards them. At the same time, one of Fine's orbs was able to find mana vehicles, so they began running towards them, but Arl couldn't stand back and be worthless. The colossal void continued charging forward, and the skeletons tried to open a path for Leo and Celia to get closer, so as Leo faced off against her, he realized that he needed to take care of the stampede first. So he began chanting the spell's activation prayer and released a level 10 light sphere of magic. But even though it began burning Terris, it was able to regenerate all of the damage and come out unscathed. The priestess smiled in his disgusting face and began using the prayers to unleash all of her power, so Leo shielded his allies, and all of the Sacred Order angels began getting into formation for the spell's activation. As she released the level 11 spell, she began burning her own voids along with her, but the flames were enough to level the entire field. After the dust settled, Terris released her voids towards them once again, so Leo asked Celia to buy him some time to get closer, and the skeletons promised that they would be by her side. So she released her blood to activate her blood wings, and as the voids rushed forward, one of the skeletons froze it with his sword, while the swordsman continued slashing them as the mage burnt them all down. With her blood daggers, she dismembered the voids and slashed off its head, giving Leo the opportunity to face off against Terris. In that moment, he began chanting Excalibur's noble phantasm and commanded Terris to perish, but his sword would not move. As it resonated, he heard Roselia's voice coming from Terris and realized that her soul had merged into the Void Lord's. The thought of it crushed him, and he rejected the possibility of this occurring, casting his magic against Terris's body, but her defense barrier managed to block it. On top of that, she summoned a barrage of arrows and killed her entire army when they were released. However, one of them fatally shot Leo, and after he fell onto the ground, Terris began preparing another level 11 spell, so Celia realized that this would be the end for them without his magic. But she wouldn't allow another person she cared about to perish, so she summoned her divine ancestral cloak, and casted her vampiric blood to decimate the entire floor and throw Terris off balance, causing her giant body to fall onto the ground. The voids continued diving towards them, but the skeletal elder continued defending their master, while Celia flew down towards him. As she looked at his lifeless body, Leo began remembering the time when Roselia asked him if he would find her 1,000 years later, but he opened his eyes and begged Celia to run. It was his fault that she became his minion, so he told her to replenish her mana and use the last of his blood to escape. But instead, she touched his heart, and he remembered the last thing Roselia told him. If she was to ever end up turning into something evil, she asked him to kill her with his demonic sword. At the same time, Celia began transferring her blood back into Leo, and he wondered what the point in living was, especially if Roselia had turned into a void. After all, he remembered rejecting the idea of ever killing her, so she told him that when the time came, she wanted him to find the real her. The demonic sword she gave him would always guide him to the truth, and those memories finally reappeared into his brain, with Celia replenishing his blood. When he woke up, he realized that the real Roselia wasn't in Terris's body, so he needed to abolish her fake soul, and wouldn't accept defeat until he found the real goddess. As the soldiers said they would protect him, Celia ripped up her dress so he could infuse it back into his uniform, and Terris began rising from the ground. He promised to kill her once and for all, but he realized that all of his mana was gone, so he couldn't unleash his strongest spell. However, the ghosts decided to sacrifice their souls and convert them into mana, saying that the entire population of the fortress would also gladly sacrifice their souls to save more lives. Their souls appearing was the side effect of Terrace's resurrection powers, and the knights begged him to grant them their last wish. So Leo agreed, and swore that he would take their souls to a land that was filled with peace, casting his soul-absorbing spell. As all of the citizens' mana began getting absorbed, Leo told the knights that he had a better use of them, and summoned skeletons from the ground, allowing their souls to infuse into the undead bodies. He told Celia to lead them into battle, as he would need more time to gather the energy he needed for his spell. So she promised to protect him, and used her blood to create spears for the soldiers to use. But the elders knew they couldn't let some weak losers outshine them. She told the soldiers to follow her, and on the other side of the fortress, Fine had finally cracked the code for the vehicles, but Arl asked them to take her with them. And when a void tried to kill her from behind, she destroyed it with a single slash, and said that her Demon Slayer sword is the only way to destroy Terrace's shields. As the voids began rushing towards Celia, the skeletal soldiers began holding all of them off, while she flew to slay more of them down. The elders began activating their secret techniques to protect Leo, and he continued absorbing all of the souls of the citizens. At the same time, the girls began heading towards Terrace, but told Regina to take care of them while she used her abilities to autopilot her bike. Along with her, Sakuya began slashing the oncoming voids, and Celia ordered the skeletons to take the phalanx formation. However, a void slashed her from behind, but one of the bone soldiers caught her, and she realized that her dress was taking too much of her mana. But she wouldn't allow what happened 6 years ago to repeat, and swore to save everyone else. One of the bone men said that there was no better place to die, while another said they would gladly make their grave in this place. However, one of them called them fucking morons because they were already dead skeletons, so they couldn't die again.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
As Celia looked back, she saw Leo's massive balls, but Terrace began activating her level 11 spell to eliminate him. But he realized that he wasn't ready yet. All of the angels began praying once again, and Leo told all of them to take cover. The priestess unleashed her spell and burnt the entire field, but Leo was able to shield them with his magic, and realized that he was extremely close to finishing his spell. The girls were unable to create a connection to Celia, and Arl decided to conserve her strength until they were closer. But before they could reach them, a hole appeared in the road, so Fine activated air thrusting magic to allow them to jump across. However, another colossal void appeared, and Regina's blasts were unable to cause any damage. As the void was about to shoot them down, a rope grabbed it by the arm and crushed its head. From inside the building, Sherry wished Leo would stop summoning bone creatures to replace her, because all she wanted was to swallow his bone. The goddess began retreating behind the voids, but the knights continued trying to clear the waves for Leo, and he had finally completed the absorption of all the spells. But even so, Terrace began activating her spell one final time to throw him off before he could absorb the souls. But Leo would not allow that to happen. As she grabbed a massive building to throw at him, Celia rushed with her holy sword, and used her blood to slash the building in half before it could reach Leo. Both the goddess and Leo began chanting Excalibur's noble phantasm, but when Leo activated the true power of his Dainsleif, the goddess casted a holy protection spell, but it was too late for Leo to stop. On the other side of the field, the girls realized they were getting close, so Arl got on top of the vehicle and activated the secret energy inside of her blade, and all of the girls prepared to support her attack. As soon as they launched off the road, Regina and Sakuya released their ultimate magical spells to weaken the shield, while Arl casted her sword's magic to obliterate her defenses. When Leo wondered who did that, the girls crashed onto the ground, and Roselia's voice tried telling him that he was committing a grave sin. However, Leo revealed that his demonic sword knew the truth, and told the fake to meet her demise, casting a level 15 spell that began to completely wipe her out. When Celia saw his powers, she remembered her father's words telling her that the demon lord would come back to save them, and Leo managed to completely burn the goddess away. As the skies cleared, the souls of the knights emerged, telling her that they've finally fulfilled their duty to the bitter end. So when she asked them if they would be going to the afterlife with her parents, the knights told her that she should take her time before meeting them again, and wished her luck on her adventures. Regina's massive cannons were heard in the distance, so the elder knights bid Leo farewell, and he swallowed all of their bones. Regina jumped to make out with Celia, and Fine and the others appeared, but Leo instantly recognized Arl as one of the 6 heroes. The reinforcement drones arrived with ugly-ass Fenris, but she was glad to see that Celia and her comrades were all alive. As they began flying home, he wondered what the elf hero was doing in this era, but saw that Celia was reading an old book. So she told him that her father would always read her this fairy tale about the demon lord, and how he was the king of bones that would always bone all of his enemies by shoving his bony sword deep into their throats. Leo wondered why his entire story was filled with sus bullshit. But when she wondered what he meant by that, he pretended that he had no idea their history was that weird. However, Celia thought he was just like the Bone King, but he told her that he hasn't shoved his bony sword into her throat yet. When he wondered what happened to the demon lord, she revealed that the heroes killed him off and lived happily ever after, but he thought that the story was as worthless as Regina's personality. After some massive shower plot development, Sherry begged him for his bone as a reward, but he said that he was lying to her ugly ass, so she said he was small anyway, but he told her that 3 inches was above average.
Keep telling yourself that, darling.
Just then, Celia came and decided the plot of this story was complete garbage. So she said that if you guys get this video to 20,000 likes, she would finally develop plot and suck the soul out of his body one last time, and give Leo the happiest ending. Watch this next video. Till next time, my fellow legendary plot masters.